So the third part of demand that we're going to discuss is what's called elasticity of demand. And that refers to really our sensitivity to a change in price. So when prices change, how likely are we to buy products once that happens? And so we look at how demand schedule and curves determine that, what other factors affect that, and as well as how firms use elasticity and revenue to make decisions. So really, again, it is a measurement of how consumers react to a change in price. So if there are goods that we will continue to buy despite a price increase, demand for those goods is what we call inelastic. It doesn't stretch. So I always ask, do you buy the same amount of gas now even though prices have gone up versus before? We need gas, so we're willing to pay for it. If demand for a good is very sensitive to a change in price, then demand is elastic for that good. So if burritos suddenly cost you $20, would you continue to buy them? The little donkeys, or would you use a substitute and buy something else? The way in which we calculate elasticity is by this formula, and we'll use this formula in class, and it will be on your assignment as well as on the board as we continue to go. It's the percentage change in quantity demanded divided by the percentage change in price. So in order to find the percentage change in quantity demanded or price, you have to use this formula. You subtract the new number from the original number and divide the result by the original number. Okay? You're going to ignore any negative signs, and then you're going to multiply it by 100 so that it becomes a percentage. Okay? So what this looks like is, say for instance, we had a demand at the first price of 100. Sorry, as I'm using my pen here. Okay, and now when they raise the price, okay, demand for it is now at 150. Or I'm sorry, let's go down. Let's say it's 75 once they raise the price. All right, and then you divide by the original number. Okay, and that will give you the percentage change in demand. You would do the exact same thing for price, and that would help you calculate then your elasticity. Okay, so here's another example. If you see this on a graph, you see the quantity demanded here, okay, you see the price, okay, and you see the demand. So when the price goes from $4 to $3, okay, you see the original price minus the new price divided by the original price multiplied by 100 equals 25. Sorry, so I'm trying to figure out what we got here. Okay, so you see that. Okay, so that's your percentage change in demand. Okay, I'm sorry, that's the percentage change in price. Then your percentage change in demand was originally 10 units at $4. Then they decreased the price to $3. So 10 minus 20 over 10 divided by 100 equals 100. All right, so here's our percentage change in demand, and here's our percentage change in price. So you calculate those into the elasticity equation, or you plug them in, and you have the percentage change in demand divided by the percentage change in price, and your number is 4. The rule of thumb that we use is that if elasticity is greater than 1, demand is elastic, and you'll have to practice this in class, okay, as well as on the test. If elasticity is less than 1, well then demand is inelastic, and people are usually willing to pay whatever they want. Okay. The other thing to use is what's called revenue, and to calculate total revenue, that will also determine if a change in price affects your total is a good thing or a bad thing, if it's elasticity. All right. So if a company's total revenue from selling 125 slices of pizza is $250, okay, that's calculated by the number you sell times the price. Okay, so 125 slices sold at $2 a piece, your total revenue is $250. So you have to be aware of your elasticity of demand for your good or service that you're providing. If you raise your prices, okay, and you don't sell as many pizza slices, If you're making less than $250, well, then your demand is definitely elastic and people will buy something else. If you raise your price and you have the same amount of slices sold, or for some reason you even sell more, and as long as that revenue is greater than it was before, then you're fine. But too expensive pizza might mean less customers and might actually lower your total revenue. Okay, and that's what I say. If a good has an elastic demand, raising prices may actually decrease your total revenue. And total revenue is what's important because that keeps you in business, trying to make as much money as possible. All right, so what affects elasticity? How do we determine what goes on and if something is actually elastic or inelastic? Well, the first thing is what we call the availability of substitutes. So if there are a few substitutes for a good, then demand is not likely to decrease as price increases. And the opposite's true. So if there's no other substitute for like Katy Perry tickets, well, guess what? You're going to pay that price no matter what. Okay. If there are a lot of other options out there, then chances are demand is elastic and you're not going to pay the high price. Relative importance is something that's very personal. Okay. How much of your budget do you spend on something? So if you spend half of your total money and your budget on clothes, and the price of clothes goes up, then you have to buy less clothes, right? And so your demand right there is pretty elastic. And so you have to determine that you're not going to be able to buy as much. Necessities versus luxury has an effect, and this is again personal preference. If you consider a good to be a necessity, or if it's simply just a luxury, like an add-on item, that has an impact on the elasticity of demand for that person and that good. So for me and my family, milk is a necessity. We go through 2 gallons a week, not a problem. I'm always buying it. It goes in our coffee, it goes in the cereal, it's what the kids drink. We have to have milk. And if it's expensive, we're still pretty much going to pay for it. Steak, on the other hand, is a luxury. A while back, tri-tip was up to almost $10 a pound because there was a beef shortage. Okay, so I didn't buy tri-tip. I didn't buy steak. That was more of a luxury item. I'd be fine with chicken, be fine with pork. Okay, I can do without the more expensive meat. So that is what I would consider to be a luxury item. Lastly is just change over time. Sometimes demand becomes more elastic over time because you can eventually find a substitute. And hybrid cars is a great example of this, because if in the future we have more affordable hybrid cars and they look cooler and we like them and they perform just as well as a gasoline powered engine, okay, the demand for traditional cars and gasoline could become more elastic because more people are just buying hybrid cars or electric cars instead. So don't forget those 4 factors. These are the why when it comes to elasticity. The last is the review. We'll go over this in class so that you understand all the concepts. There you go.